Hey guys, Ricochet here, and today's big question is, are streamers ruining ARPGs such as Diablo 4 and Last Epoch? Going to react to this video by Alexa. We'll take a look and we'll get to each and every point as we go along. So let's dive in.
Greetings everyone, it's Alexa again, and this is an interesting topic, isn't it? The question is, are streamers actually ruining ARPGs? And is everyone missing the point entirely of the whole game? And I came...
Okay, so my first question is, how are people missing the point of the entire game? It's very difficult to do when you're going into an ARPG. You pretty much know what you're getting from the offset, I would think. But anyway,
across this because I realized one thing. If you actually look at Steam for Diablo, let's actually bring this over here real fast. There we go. Now I have only 60 hours in Diablo 4 so far, right? But if you go for the achievements, there is, for example, this one: dedicated protector, reach level 50 with any character, right? Not just with 5 or just the
your first character.
play,
That's going to give you the
50.
achievement.
Only 35% of all players for Diablo have ever achieved this. Okay.
Okay. So my first reaction is looking at that percentage there. That's pretty average. That's pretty indicative of pretty much any game. You can't expect 100% player retention. So I would say that's reasonable.
That means 65% of players never even level their character above level 50.
Okay, because like I said, you can't expect to retain 100% of your player base from the offset. So there's going to be a percentage of players that quit because they didn't like the game or whatever reason. Didn't have time, went through the campaign, decided that they didn't want to continue, whatever, but okay. I think, like I said, I think that's fairly indicative of most games.
This also completely ties in with what Mike said from EHG, the guys who make Last Epoch, that the majority of players, which is like, he said, I think 70%, never even finished the first monolith boss. Okay? That means most players of these ARPG games, they never even play to the end game, ever.
Because they quit. For whatever reason, they just quit. They didn't, obviously didn't enjoy the game, didn't like the game. So we'll just touch on Last Epoch, since that was the last thing that was mentioned. When Last Epoch officially launched, I know it was in early access for a good while. When it officially launched, there were huge problems with the servers. I don't think they were expecting the massive influx of players. That was a reflection at the time of Diablo 4 and the state of that game. So there were a lot of people keen to try Last Epoch to see if it was any better. You're looking at a lot of casual players that aren't going to dip into, say, Path of Exile, because Path of Exile has a very steep learning curve. A lot of casual players, can't find the time to get into that, so they're looking for something like Diablo and Last Epoch, which I think is what both of those games cater for. And you will find that a lot of the player base dropped off immediately because they got angry because they couldn't get into the game. And then you're going to get players that didn't like the game as much as they did Diablo, for instance. So they quit. So yeah, I mean, it seems fairly normal to me. But anyway, let's carry on.
So my question is, why is everyone so hell-bent on putting a lot more endgame content into these games?
Okay.
That's the key.
Regardless of the numbers that you're throwing out on the screen there, any set of devs, company, whatever, is going to take care of its concurrent player base. They want to keep players interested. They want to keep retention. So they're going to make content that does that. And endgame content is always going to be the way, because why would you concentrate on early game content, and why would you try and cater for the people that have quit? So that's my first thing. The statistics upon which this is based are wrong to start with, because if you're gonna, the whole premise is, are streamers ruining ARPGs? Well, based on that statistic, that looks, like I said, it's a very normal thing. You don't expect to have 100% of your player base retained from the offset. You're always going to have this massive dip off. People come in, they try it, they don't like it for whatever reason. They buy it, they don't have time to keep playing it. So again, this is pretty normal, and I'd be interested to see what the overall numbers are, because especially Diablo, we're not taking into consideration the console numbers. So there are obviously a large percentage of console players on Xbox and PlayStation that aren't being taken into consideration here. I know that achievement on PlayStation is 51, just over 51%. I think it's 51.9, and I think it's 51.3 on Xbox. So we're not taking those numbers into consideration, and I think you've got to add up your concurrent player base across all platforms. If you're gonna, say that streamers are ruining ARPGs, let's base it off the true numbers rather than this. What I think is a kind of false percentage of players that you're saying haven't made this achievement. Well, that's probably likely because they didn't want to. So anyway, let's carry
Isn't
on.
it? Last epoch, Mike also said Tier 4 Jura, right, is the toughest boss in the game currently. Only a tiny percentage of people have ever even beat Tier 4 Jura, right?
So that's going to be
only
a
tiny percentage of players.
Of the concurrent player
and now
base.
They're adding a boss who's even stronger than that, and many other bosses. This content will just most likely never be played. Most people will never play this content, and they have even more.
Okay, if you're going to base, I mean, again, if you're basing it off the percentages you're trying to base this off, then your statement looks true. But actually, if you take it off the real numbers, then that's not the case at all.
Endgame content planned over the next builds or the next seasons. Same with Diablo, right? But for who is that content even? If the majority of players doesn't even ever play that.
Again, because
and
they quit.
Again, where
so this content is for the concurrent player base. Okay, you've got to look after the people that are still playing your game. It's what good is it going to do them if they just stop there? These are live service games. They we have seasons. That it's expected with ARPGs. So I don't quite understand where we're going with this.
The huge discrepancy between streamers and actual players is, because me as a streamer, right, or any of you guys, your favorite people, just want to call some names. Rax, for example, right? Woody from Diablo, Asmongold, Rob from Diablo, Aaron, for example, for Last Epoch, whoever you want to name, it's just top of my head. They just zoom through that content, that new content, within like hours, because they play the game 8 hours a day or more, 5 days a week or more. So you just through the content super fast. But you
because it's their job, would be my first statement on that one. And also because they're fucking good at the game. It's as simple as that. So back to the first point, that it's their job. They're gonna get through this content quickly, because they want to make content on it. So they want to give you their feedback, their reviews, their guides. That's another thing. That's a massive part of these streamers' jobs. I know that the content creators that he's mentioned, such as Rax, Woody, we've got Riker, DM, just off the top of my head, who all make great content for ARPGs that's more geared towards helping and guiding players to make their lives easier rather than looking like complete gigachads, racing through the game. I know that there is a race at the beginning of most seasons for like Path of Exile and Last Epoch and Diablo 4, but that's their enjoyment. They want to be a part of that. They want to get that's good. I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Regular dad, right? Your regular dad guy, or even a regular just person, has maybe like 1 hour per day. Let's be generous and say 5 hours a week. He has time to play this game because of family, job, other things, whatever it is.
I think that's overly generous. So I kind of get what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure that 5 hours a week is really indicative of a gamer, whether it be casual or otherwise. And if they are only putting 5 hours a week into a game, then obviously they've got bigger priorities. So again, that's maybe a choice. Maybe they've got kids, they've a very demanding job or whatever. So yeah, again, that's down to some of that's down to age as well. So older gamers, they grow up, they get into more demanding jobs, they can put less time into gaming. But yeah, I mean that's just life, isn't it?
And these people will just never get to the end game. The only way for them to experience the end game is through streaming.
But that's not by design, is it? That's not because the devs are making the game for streamers. That's not at all true. That's not by design. Because Diablo 4 and Last Epoch are actually more aimed towards casual players than they are the hardcore players. I mean, if you're really into that stuff and you're a really hardcore ARPG player, you're going to go and play something like Path of Exile because that's got a lot more to offer. It's got a lot more depth to it. It's been around for a long time, and there's a lot of research that needs to be done when you play in a game like that. So again, I'm not sure where he's going with this, but
I see one reason or one way this whole thing could work or could make sense is if a streamer or content creator, let's say that, plays through that end game, it is sort of a marketing for the game for people to buy it.
Agreed.
But my problem, which is why I bring this whole thing up, is this is actually a bad way for the devs to look at the game. Of course you get some marketing, but the content you create and spend months developing on, most people will not even play that ever. Now Diablo, I think, is doing a...
Okay, we're going to go back to the original point because they quit the game. It's nothing to do with the fact that the devs are particularly aiming it at streamers. Yes, they will get content creators and streamers to help them promote the game. I mean, why not? It's a good way to get the game out there. In fact, it's one of the best ways to get the game out there. I mean, social media is, is the way to go. So why wouldn't they? That's just the standard these days for any game. Get it pushed out there to creators, YouTubers, Twitch players, whatever, to get the game promoted and get people buying and investing in the game. It doesn't mean they're making the content specifically for those players, though.
Somewhat good job at trying to sort of find the balance between endgame content and early game content. But what about this? What if instead of throwing so much time into endgame content, we, for example, completely drop the whole paragon system in Diablo?
I counter your point there because they might be doing a good job now, but the game came out almost a year ago and it's been appalling for a large portion of that period. Okay, so there's been a lot of pushback from players and streamers and content creators alike. So I think you're kind of tripping over your own point there in terms of who are they making these games for? Well, if they were making it for the streamers, then they've done a really bad job because the streamers hated it as well for a long period of time. but not only that, those streamers and content creators gave massive amounts of feedback to the devs to be able to make the game better for everybody. You know, casuals, you name it. Obnoxious progression, obnoxious grind. It was boring. There wasn't enough endgame content. Diablo 4 was not in a good state right from the offset. So, you know, I actually think that streamers helped to make the game better rather than ruining the game.
We have a skill tree that goes to level 70, for example. And we have, instead of 5 classes, we have 10. Now you can't really do this in Diablo.
Hey, nothing wrong with more classes, right?
The book is too much overhaul, but let's just think of
let's
a
get
new
more classes.
RPG that comes
Absolutely,
along. It has 10 classes,
especially in Diablo.
Goes to level 70, and this is the main game. This is where you do everything. I mean, you could also just make it to level 100 if you like the number 100. You just get there faster. And the way there is more fun. The campaign is more fun, or even skipping it. You have more things to do right from the beginning. You have more skills. Last Epoch is already doing this.
I can kind of see his point here, but then that comes back to who are you aiming the game at? Because obviously, at the moment, you can't make the game for those players that have quit. They're not going to do that because those players may never come back. If they quit the game, they quit the game because they didn't like it, full stop. And I know that a large portion of players did quit the game because it was in a bad way, and actually probably won't come back either. I mean, a lot of people that I know have said that they're not going to go back to Diablo because they were a little bit jaded by everything. But I think stunting the progression at the end of the game to promote the beginning of the game is going to be to its detriment, because you need to, yes, power people through the first part of the game, and I think both Last Epoch and Diablo 4 were doing a really good job of that. Progression in Diablo has enormously improved, so you're getting much more XP much quicker, you're getting to the end game much quicker. So what are you going to do after that? And what I think he's saying here is that you go to another class. Well, that again, that's not going to solve. It's not going to solve the problem, really. In my eyes, it's certainly not going to bring people back because you're just playing the same thing over and over again, just with a different class. Is it going to retain players? I don't think it is. Yeah, have more classes in the game. I'm all for having more classes in the game. I mean, we're getting a Spiritborn in Diablo 4. I'd love to see a Paladin. Warlock in Diablo would be phenomenal. I think it's something that players have been asking for a while. Again, you know, there is plenty of time for that. The game's only been around a year. Okay, less than a year. We had Diablo 3 that was around for what, nearly, I think 10 years, was it? Diablo 2, phenomenal game, one of the best and most revered ARPGs out there. They got it spot on with that. They made a lot of mistakes with Diablo 4. I think, yes, there could be more classes. People have been begging for certain classes for a while now, but I really don't think it's going to solve the problems that have existed within the game. And people have been saying that, you know, there are problems with the end game. There hasn't been enough content. Level design is pretty samey, you know. I think there needs to be more of a change of atmosphere, change of location. You know, dungeons look the same, so you know, I'd like to see, you know, more differences there. But yeah, again, I don't think more classes is going to solve this problem.
More skills to play with, and just more classes to try. Because what is more fun? You tell me, what is more fun? Grinding the echoes or the pit over and over and over again for that one item that gives you a 10% buff on your damage, or that one aspect, whatever it is, or trying a new class with completely new skills. What is more fun?
No, I think having new classes to try is exceptional.
We are currently in a state in this whole
you're always going to have
meta,
a grind,
so
though.
to speak, about ARPGs, where there is too much being focused on the end game through streamers and content creators that nobody plays in the end, instead of focusing on the actual casual gamer. Now again, I understand that this is of course great marketing if people are watching us killing these bosses or going through the end game and getting new end game content. But will they ever play it? Now maybe I'm completely off base and this is actually the best way for them to make money. If people see this, the end game content, then they want to buy the game, they buy it even though they never play to this. Maybe it's also that 70% of casual players don't actually spend any money on the game and it's just the 30% who no life the whole game. Maybe that is actually what's going on. I don't.
Okay, I don't think that's fair. I think casual players do play the game and enjoy the game as much as the hardcore players. I certainly, like I said, there's no way that devs are making the game for streamers. It's just bad business practice. It's just, it's not going to do them any good. And I think that he's doing a massive disservice to himself and other streamers, because we're not dictating the way that ARPGs are played or the way that they're designed to the point that we're ruining them. That's just not true. The bigger content creators, such as Rax and Woody and DM, etc., are advocating for better ARPGs, better environments, better progression systems. If you're going to design a game that's supposed to be casual friendly, make it for the casual so that there's not this enormous grind for XP, enormous grind for materials, etc., etc. Helltide in Diablo was one of the most obnoxious areas in the entire game. It was boring, and they changed that. It's looking, much better, but that wouldn't have happened without the huge amount of noise from both the player base and the streamers alike.
No, I just wanted to make this video to give some food for thought. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. If you think I'm completely off, maybe the test has already been done before, I don't know. But it just feels so weird to me that we're focusing so much dev time and content creation for the games on content that will never be played by most people. Just kind of weird to me. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of it, and I will see you in the next video.
So, who are most people? And if we make our assumptions off the information and evidence that's been given by Alexa in the video, we'd be under the misapprehension that there was a bigger problem than there actually is. And that less players are engaging with the endgame content than actually there is. Percentage-wise, that is. The other problem, like I said, is that this doesn't use all of the available statistics, especially where Diablo is concerned. He's using Diablo as his example, and using that example, unfortunately, you've missed out on quite a large player base by missing out PlayStation and Xbox players. So, unfortunately, the statistics are flawed right from the start. So if you took those numbers, you'd probably find that there's, like I said, there's a lot more players that are engaging with the endgame content, and there's probably a lot more concurrent players than is actually being presented. To say that devs and game companies make ARPGs that are specifically aimed at content creators and streamers is just way off the mark, in my opinion. How would they expect to make money? Diablo 4, their marketing process was all about the casual gamers. They wanted it for the casual gamers. Unfortunately, when it launched, it was way too grindy. XP progression was exceptionally slow. People didn't make it to level 100. Certainly a lot of people anyway didn't make it to 100 because of that. So in order to gain player retention, they fucked it up. Let's be honest. They made it too grindy, and people got bored and walked away. And that's just as simple as that. Seasonal content. I over the course of the seasons, if they've maybe only had 1 or 2 successful seasons, and you can't really count season 4 as a successful seasonal content because there wasn't any really. We had the addition of the pit, but we had this whole rework, so there wasn't really any seasonal content to engage with there. So out of the 3 seasons that we'd had before that, we probably had 1 successful season. That was season 2, and I enjoyed that as much as anybody else. Player retention was probably higher in that season than it was in season 1 or season 3. And if they were aiming Diablo 4 at the streamers and not everybody else, then they did a pretty bad job, because streamers walked away from the game for a significant period of time and went and played other games like Elden Ring and Last Epoch and Path of Exile, just to name a few. So unfortunately, I just don't see that there's enough evidence here to say that streamers are ruining ARPGs. In fact, in my opinion, it's quite the opposite. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you if you stuck around and listened to me droning on. Please do drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for your support. Subscribe for future content. Drop me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts are on the video. Let me know what ARPG you're playing, what you're enjoying right now. I personally am playing Last Epoch. I'm having a blast. I think it's great. A lot of the stuff that they've just dropped has been phenomenal. And I think they've got an exceptional range of classes and subclasses for you to choose from. So, really good content there. But yeah, I will see you in the next one, guys. Take care.